Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whenever you watch this video. Uh, Thank you for the opportunity. We are from the group one. We'd like to discuss about the case 9.1, which is about the New York Times Company. So, before we move into our explanation, I'd like to introduce you to our group members. So, first is me, Lazuardi Imani, with student number 047. Next is Febriani Sarwinda with student number 218. And the next is Bertalia Permata Putri with student number 440. And the last is Dona Ambarsari with student number 441. So, without any further ado, let's go next. Okay, so for this case, we'd like to explain to you about the six questions that we'd like to discuss. But before we move to the questions, I'd like to give a brief explanation according to our case. So actually, in 2001, the company owned a variety of media properties, including the New York Times newspaper, the Boston Globe, the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and 14 other regional newspapers located primarily in the southern United States. So the company also owned several broadcast media properties which accounted for 5% of revenue and NYTD which accounted for 2% of total revenue. So the New York Times newspaper sought to provide high value added content to wealthy, sophisticated readers. So the New York Times brand was believed to be the company's most valuable assets, built through years to top-notch reporting and analysis, plus marketing and promotion. And however, the year was shaping up as a tough one for both the company and the economy. And also it declined the revenues that the companies get. And of course, this newspaper company, the profitability is influenced by the economic condition that happen in a country. So corporate advertisers and the most important customers tended to cut the uh, advertisement spending significantly during the downturns because of the terrorist attack on the September 11 that happened in that time, and the uh, based on those uh, action, it make the economic condition in a country is unstable. So it affect on the profitability of the newspaper's operation itself. So by those kind of action, the company for the New York Times move or invest more in the New York Times digital. So, okay, let's move to the questions. For the first question is describe NYTD's evolution to date. What is the strategy of NYTD and are the organization and control consistent with the strategy? So next. Okay, we will divide the answer into three sections. So the first we'd like to discuss about the evolution. So the evolution is first New York Times first ventured into the internet in 1995. Back then, the company was called the New York Times Electronic Media Company. So at first, the organization included four more employees. Later, during the first year, Martin Nisenholtz was hired as a president, and the project consisted of only one web page, which is the nytimes.com. So, Mr. Nisenholtz reported to both the general manager and the editor of the newspaper. So later, Bernie Gertzman was assigned to direct the editorial operation of nytimes.com. So at this time, there was a need for an owned newsroom for the digital version of the newspaper. And in 1999, a new operating division, Times Company Digital, was created, which reported directly to corporate management. The new division included nytimes.com, boston.com, nytoday.com, golfdigest.com, winetoday.com, and Abuse. So the new division had a very decentralized structure and different organizational structures, but still with similar roles as a common newspaper. The different websites were combined in the new organization to be able to learn from each other. And however, in 2000, the organizational structure changed and product managers were nominated as well as functional heads. So a lot of effort was then put into creating a culture of teamwork and openness. And the NYTT moved into a new building. So the separate unit, first organizationally and then physically, led to tensions between the original company and the new division. So the new culture and employees hired from outside the company created a very competitive internal environment. Well, next. Next, we talk about the strategies. So the main strategy of NYTT is to convert printed newspapers into website content that would be displayed over the internet. So the NYTT aimed to find new and creative ways to utilize the full potential of internet multimedia. And the second is the division encouraged conversation and cooperation to inspire new ideas between groups of people, and they used a decentralized organization. So the NYTT is an independent division, and moreover, the NYTT collects customer information through registration. And however, the registration is free of charge, and most revenue come from selling advertisement on the website. And another part of the strategy is to the add value through interactive features and function to the web page. So they create a distinct internet culture which aimed to be experimental can also be seen as a strategy. So these several ideas were realized but then later discontinued if not profitable. And an objective for NYTT was also to enhance the geographical reach. Next, next is about the consistency. So the question is, was it consistent with the organizational control? So control was minimized, but some control was minimized, but some processes were defined. So the information was shared and decision making was to be transparent. And the hiring process was consistent with the strategy. And also because the NYTT wanted to find persons who fitted into the new culture, which is young, smart, ambitious, with .com experience, and the organization and location supported the openness of the culture. And NYTT had a bottom-up approach to budgeting, which is the ideas were welcome from all areas of the organization. So that's all about my explanation, and the next will be delivered by my friend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Fabiani Sarwinda with student ID 218. So I would like to explain the second case, no, the second number of this case, that what impact has NYTD had on the rest of the company. Okay, from this we know that in the beginning for NYTD itself was considered as a durable part of the corporation. So from this we can know that in that time NYTD created a loss of tension with the original company. So from that, NYTD broke down the Chinese wall that existed between the editorial and business operation in the original company itself. And they also encourage the collaboration and communication, and also concerning uh, for the advertising sales, the newspaper sales force was unwilling to share their customer. Moreover, the staff feared that the online version would decrease subscription of sales. And as we know that it didn't even increase in number of subscription. and become a complementary asset instead of a competitive itself. And so what's the reason? What's the reason it's all happened? Because of this, that NYTD considered its brands to have a positive impact on a company. So, however, the tension was also due to the fact that NYTD was allowed to stay in the business even though it's lost money several years in a row. So, I think that's all the impact that NYTD had on the rest of the company. The first impact will they should or they will lose money in several years in a row, and also for the next impact that the employee or the worker in NYTD will have freezers, and also it's always have a high tension due to the fact that NYTD was allowed to stay in business, even though, like I mentioned before, that it will lose money in several years in a row like that. So I will going to the next questions. That is the third question from this question, from this case. I mean that how does the way NYTD is managed to compare the way a venture capital firm manage a startup, and what insight, if any, do you draw from this comparison? Okay, so from this, we can compare that NYTD, I mean NYTD can be compared to a venture capital as a lot of money has been invested in the beginning. So this can be described as an organic growth. However, contrary to the venture capital, there has been no real return on investment. And how about the venture of capital itself? So the ventures of capital is divided by three. That the first is different stage of finance, and it might bring a culture which may not be suitable for growth, and also for the last is increasing intervention may increase lead time of product development. And how about the company? In the company itself have or divided into four I mean that for comparison, that the first is company management decision would be the final decisions. This is the first comparison that should be compared with the venture capitals. And then the second is company can increase its investment in any condition. And the third, they can choose their own culture. And also for the last, bottom of approach. So it can be uh, based on companies wise or companies decisions to find or to compare these two like that. And from this we can conclude that NYTD's way to manage company are by take advantage of the better pricing that the corporation is able to get from vendors, and choose what budgeting type to manage cost and expense of the company in this case. And in my opinion, for the company in this case is using bottom-up approach, because the company can handle company is their own, because they also have a decision would be the final decision, but by using venture capital. So described in, I think that I ever read in wikipedia.com as a form of entrepreneurship. Venture capitals is typically have voting right as a determinant of firm policy direction in accordance with the number of shares owned. So using this venture capital may bring culture which may not be suitable for growth, because the company which is have capital in joint venture has their own culture that can differ with in YTD's cultures. But beside that, since 1995, like my friends mentioned before, that NYTD had its own cultures, and also at mid 1999, NYTD had its cultures that called internet culture. So from this, the difference managed NYTD as their own is better than using venture capital firm. Why? Because NYTD can decide their way for better future by itself without venture capital's firm intervention. So for the next question in this case will be explained by my friend. So thank you. And for the next will be explained by my friend.
So hi everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. Here I'm Berta from the group 1. We'll continue the explanation for the case 9.1. So here is the question number 4. The question is, what impact do internal perception of the NYTD company performance have on its own operation? So here in the NYTD company itself, they really prioritize their employee because all the ideas, all the creativities come from them. And the company itself state in the book that they select their employee from a tough selection because they're using both from the internal and external hiring system. And actually at the time in the late 90s, the employment market for the technology related position was extremely competitive. So they was make a great effort to choose the employee that qualify to their requirements, such as young, smart, and have a .com experience. But the result was very great because the NYTD company itself was growing and they built a internal competitive environment that developed them to the more forceful and confrontational leadership approach rather than traditional approach. And this organization itself, they allow their employee to work in the fully creative atmosphere like that. And for the next question is question number 5. Would you change in NYTD existing organizational structure? So based in our opinion, according to the book, we can see that NYTD division itself actually already works pretty well. They indeed have a good organizational structure, and in our opinion, they don't really need to change. But however, here we would like to give a suggestion for them that in our opinion, it's better for them to collaborate with the between the NYTD and the newspaper division, rather to reduce the rivalry tension because rather than like hating each other, in our opinion, it's better to collaborate together like that. And we like to suggest them to use the responsibility center because by using the responsibility center, it can increase the measurement of the financial performance that could be a good solution for them. And also, it will also increase the number of the source of the profit like that. And the next, the question number 6 will be explained by Donna.
Okay, here we will discuss about the question number 6. This question is related about the previous question. So if the question number 5 is being realized, so how will change the proposed effect for the culture and leadership style, for the budget, and for the performance? The first is the culture and leadership style. We as a group one agreed to Boston.com to move the internet division to a separate location several years earlier. So it will increase collaboration between NYTD and the company would reduce the rivalry to get closest enough to make their own culture and make decision quickly. Each of them must be a responsibility center. So with for the responsibility center will affect their own culture and the decision maker for each location. And the second is the budget. NYTD developed a bottom-up approach to budgeting that So that we think it is good because employees and managers at the department level prepare the budget, which we think they understand more about the real situation, so the budget will close enough to the condition. And for use of responsibility center, it will increase measurement of financial performance could be a good solution as well as to increase the number of source of profit. The third is the way of performance is judged. We agreed for a tracking stock. mm, for a tracking stock was launched that would enable NYTD to raise capital at interest valuation rather than the newspaper valuation. But financial performance is not the only measure. For example, measure audience reach, traffic, and various measures of consumer satisfaction as well, like that. So not only the financial measures but also for the non-financial. The evaluation was driven primarily by the following question. The first is, can we tolerate the losses we are generating? The second is, are we having any significant operation problems? And the third is, any damage being done to the core business or the core brand? Okay, the last is about new ideas for website are generated. Of course, NYTD has many features already, but the important thing that the the important thing we think is about the design of their website design is must to user friendly, so every circle of the customer could operate it well. Also, they need to give interactive features so it has a unique design for their website. Okay, thank you. That's all from group 1. Thank you. See you on the class.